Because Marcia's like, piece of cake, I'm gonna pass. Let's make it a little bit harder. Let's go for a C. Who?
That's the same. Hold on, never mind. Could you put it right?
Yep.
And then divide by that. I mean, I'm subtracted by that.
So now we're thinking, they just be happy with passing.
No, I'm gonna try for the 99. I always do that.
But if it would have come out to like 104, then you're thinking, okay, there's no way unless they give extra credit.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be average equals add them up and divide by the number. But this time, our average that we're shooting for is 70. Now, did I really need to write all those grades down again? No, because we know they add up to 391. So what I'm going to do is say, I know that they add up to 391. I know they add up to 391. Those grades in Ms. Cooper's grade book ain't going to change. They're still 391. And we're adding that 7th grade, so I divide by 7. So this is to get rid of the Huzzy step, so we multiply both sides by 7. So that's going to be 490 equals 391 plus x. And then we subtract 391 from both sides. So it ends up that in order to make a C, I have to make a 99 to get a C. So this is when I can say, oh, I'm going to pass the class. I'm going to get a 29. Make it a C, maybe not. Okay? So now we have 2 more what ifs, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and bring it down so we'll have the original problem again, even though we know the scores add up to 391, which is really all we need to know. But this one says, okay, Ms. Cooper's not this nice, but this teacher may be nice. What if they drop her lowest grade of an exam that, I'm not this nice. What if they drop the lowest grade of an exam that's already taken? What must she need to pass the class? I'll let you work that out. Now, remember passing the class was a 60. So, try to work it out.
Because you got that lowest grade, and lowest grade was 51. Now you just add the rest of the number.
Do it, girl. Do it.
Yeah, because they the lowest grade.
I didn't know 60 was a passing grade.
It ain't for us, girl.
I wish it was.
Actually, for this class, it is.
It is a passing grade.
It is a passing grade, and because this is a terminating class, some advisors, I would check, if you have I'm not promoting this because I want everybody to make a C, but if you make a D in this class because it's a terminating class, and we're on the 10-point scale, so a 60 is a D in this class, and it is a terminating class, some majors at this school will allow you to make a D in this class, and it still count towards your degree, as long as your GPA is above a 2.0. Some majors say no, you gotta have a C, but some majors will allow this class you to make a D.
So this class here.
I got to have a C.
You gotta have a C?
I'm supposed to have a C, but.
Yeah. So if
They're
you're
not
close,
gonna be a nurse, so
Yeah.
maybe they can.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
I
worth
have
double
a C.
checking, but yeah, some degrees do allow you to have a D, even though
So that's where I'm going for too, nursing, so I don't.
I'm not.
Okay, because we want to pass, a 60 for this one is passing. We're dropping the lowest grade, which is a 51. So that means we're left with a 72, an 80, a 62, a 57, and a 69, plus the unknown grade that we haven't taken. What are we dividing by? 6, because we dropped a grade. So it's one less grade that we have to worry about. We add up our blue grades, which are the grades that are in the grade book. It's going to be 340.
Oh, yeah.
Plus x divided by 6 equals 360. We then have to get rid of the hussy. Times 6 times 6. Oops. So 6 times 60 is going to give me 360 equals 340 plus x. So what does she need to make?
A 20.
So she actually can make 9 points lower on the exam. She only needs a 20 now instead of a 29. Y'all with me?
Yeah.
Now, the last one says, okay, now that she's dropping the lowest test grade, what do we need to have to make a C?
So you make a 7, now you add a 7.
Right, so now we change that to a 70. And those added grades, remember, we can use from up here. The added grades were 340. That's with that grade dropped. Get rid of the hussy.
That's 42, that's
Yep, so that's 420. So if the teacher drops the lowest grade, instead of a 99, you're going to need an 80, which is much more doable. We good?
Yeah.
All right, last 2 pages, and we're back to the graphing calculator.
Oh.
All right, before I do this, let me put some numbers up here just to show you what we're going to be talking about. Let me make sure I'm talking about what I'm going to be talking about on this last page. Yeah. All right, I'm just going to put some numbers up here just to kind of explain what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. If I give you a bunch of numbers, we call this number the minimum or the lowest value. So what do you think we're going to call this number?
Maximum.
The maximum, because it's the highest value. We've already talked about that just a minute ago. Now, if we come in from either side and we find the one in the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The one in the middle we call the median, because it's the midpoint. Now, if you're at a football game, and I know not everybody is football players or football watchers, but if you're at a football game, the middle of the game is called halftime. But it's also the end of which quarter? Halftime. The end of second quarter. So this is going to be the end of the second quarter. And in math, we call that quartile 2. Quartile 2. But we don't say at the football game, whoop-hoo, I'm at the end of the second quarter. We say, whoop-hoo, it's time to eat, potty, and get some drinks. Okay? So normally we call this the median more than we call it quartile 2. Okay? Now, everything before halftime. So this was halftime. That was my median or quartile 2. That's my halftime. Everything before halftime, before you go to the potty and get your drinks, everything before halftime, if I come in from either side, this number right here is the middle of the first half of the game. So what do you call the middle of the first half of the game?
Quarter.
The end of
First quarter.
the first quarter. So this is going to be called quartile 1, the end of the first quarter. everything after, if you come in from either side, this one is going to be called
In the quartile 3.
third quarter, end of the third quartile. And technically, this last one is called the end of the fourth quartile, but we just say game over. Let's go home. We're not celebrating fourth quarter, the end of the fourth quarter, we're just saying game over. So when you have a bunch of numbers, you have the bottom number, you have and so we have these numbers, and they're called a 5-number summary. You have the minimum, you have the first quartile, you have the median or the second quartile, you have the third quartile, and you have the maximum, which is also called the fourth quartile. So this is called a 5-number summary. It tells us a lot about these numbers. And what we're getting ready to do, and y'all, these numbers, and I'll show you, if we do that stat edit that I just talked about, if I come over here and I do stat edit, go to the top, hit clear enter, let me see what my first two numbers were, 2, 5, and I do 2, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 14, 17, 18, 19, and 20. I type in all my numbers, and I do just like I did before. I do stat, calc, stat, over to calc, and then do that 1 var stats. There's my first page, and then I scroll down to my second page. On that second page, everything that we just did, and I'll pull it up and show it to you, my minimum is 2, quartile 1 is 7, my median, also known as quartile 3, is 11, quartile 3 is 18, and my maximum is 20. So it does all of that for me. Y'all with me?
Mm-hmm.
So you put your numbers in there, and even in your notes, if I come to your notes for just a second, the notes for 13. Come on, 13 notes. I come in your 13 notes, I even have, let me get my camera again, let me come here, camera. Let me pull it down. I even tell you exactly to calculate all of this stuff. Press stat, then press enter to do your edit. If you have, go to the top and do L1, type in your data, go over to calc, press again enter, X bars your mean, blah, blah, blah. It won't give you the mode. So I tell you exactly, step by step, what to do it in your calculator. Okay? Now, for these problems, oops, wrong page. For these problems, it says, give me Q2, Q1, and Q3. So what we're going to do is we're going to type these into our calculator. And we're going to do Q2, Q1, and Q3. Quartile 1, quartile 2, and quartile 3. So let's go to our calculator and do stat edit. So stat edit, and then you go to the top, on top of L1, and hit clear enter. And then type in the data. I don't care if you go across or if you go up and down.
Okay, you said go to stat.
Stat edit, stat enter,
I did that.
go to the top of L1,
Okay.
and hit clear enter. You gotta go to the very top and now hit clear enter. There you go.
And then add those
Bring it
numbers.
up on.
Go to stat edit.
Did that.
No, stat edit first. You're on top of edit. We have to edit the problem before we can work it out.
Oh.
You were trying to calculate. We can't calculate until we get dressed. Edit is on edit, so just do enter. Go to the top and hit clear enter. There you go.
Now put the numbers in.
Put the numbers in. I don't care if you go across or if you go up and down. There's 20 numbers, so when you get done, you should be on line number 21. Stat edit. You gotta first edit the problem. Go to the top, clear, enter. I don't care how you type in the data. If you skip a number, you can come back to it. Just all the numbers have to be in there. It doesn't matter the order. When you finish, you should be on line number 21. So we first did stat edit. And then we're gonna do stat calc. Stat edit's like getting dressed. It's putting all your stuff on, putting in the data. Stat calc is working it out.
Count is the over number.
Stat and then calc, over to calc, and then work it out.
I got 21.
Okay?
The match.
And then stat calc,
Okay, go to cat and answer.
enter, and then enter until you get that 2 pages worth of
Yeah, I
stuff.
got it.
Okay, and they want the answer to, okay, hold on, they want the answer to quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant
Yeah, I
4.
got it.
Hold on, let me pull these down and then,
One is fine. Yeah, quadrant 3, okay.
so quadrant 1, everything's gonna be on that second page.
Yeah,
Quadrant 1,
it's 550.
quadrant 1 is gonna be 550. Quadrant 3
950.
is gonna be 950. Quadrant 2 is the same thing as the median, because second quarter is halfway through the game. So quadrant 2 is the same thing as the median, 710.
So it's not gonna say quadrant.
It's not gonna say quadrant 2, because if I come back over here, see how the end of the first quarter, end of the second quarter is the same thing as the median. So you just gotta know that quadrant 2 is the same thing as the median.
Okay.
And quadrant 4 is the same thing as the maximum. So it's really 1, 2, 3, 4. They just don't call it quadrant 2 because we say it's halftime. And they don't call it quadrant 4 because we say it's game over. We good?
Yeah.
You said quad 4? Okay.
Quadrant 4 is the same thing as the maximum.
You know, I'm doing stuff now, because I can even take my test now, because, like I said, I didn't know none of that stuff.
You gonna get it, girl.
What she said.
Yes.
Okay, check quad 1 was the,
Quad 1 is that Q1,
Is medium.
okay.
which is 550.
I thought it was the,
Quadrant 4.
on here it's saying 450, but quad 1 is 550.
Type your data, maybe you don't have your data typed in right.
So the medium and,
Is your mean 843.5? Is your X bar 843.5?
my X one,
Go back up to the top of the data.
83.
You just didn't type your data in
What,
right.
84?
843.5? Okay. Your Q1 should be 550.
I got it.
Okay. Your Q1 is 550, your Q2 is 710, and your Q3 is 950.
I was saying, I know.
You were having a moment?
The lowest and then.
Oh, the minimum and maximum. Okay, last thing we're gonna talk about is the range and the standard deviation. Range, we've done mid-range. Range is different. Range is high minus low. If I said, how do your grades range? You're gonna do high minus low. Standard deviation, that is your SX. On your graphing calculator, that is your SX. Standard deviation is your SX. Range is your high minus low.
Okay, I see it on there.
So, what is your high value for this problem?
It's 12,
12 is your high. What is your low value?
0.
0. So my range is going to be 12. We good? To do our standard deviation, we're going to go to our calculator. We're going to do stat edit. We go to the top. We hit clear enter. We type in our numbers. There's 10 numbers. You should end up on line number 11. Stat edit. It's going to be the death of her, isn't it?
I did exactly what you told me to do.
Stat edit. Don't go over.
I did that already. Now I'm trying to get it, the numbers cleared out
Go to the top
of the L1.
and hit clear enter.
Okay. Thank you, Jesus.
And she was taking this online. Bless her heart.
Well, I didn't do
Me
that.
too.
I know.
What did I have to do?
Oh, she was taking online this summer.
Oh.
She works in a school district.
Mm-hmm.
And so she started off the first half, and then as soon as she got out of school, she said, find me a class to go into. I said, I'm teaching it, girl.
I should have done that last
Yeah.
time myself.
I
All
knew I needed the instructor.
So once we do stat edit, then we're gonna do stat over to calc and enter, 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 enter. And standard deviation is my SX.
It's 4.2.
And so my answer for my standard deviation is going to be, and it says round it to the nearest hundredth, so it's going to be 4.24.
Yep.
Now, if Alex shows you, my math lab shows you how to do this, I'm teaching both classes. If my math lab shows you how to do this, it's literally a page and a half to do this by hand without a graphing
It
calculator.
is.
It's awful. We good?
Yes.
All right, let's see. We'll do one more just to make sure. We'll do one more of these just to make sure you got this one. This one is range and standard deviation.
It's the same thing.
Yep, range and standard deviation. Two, four, six, there's 7 numbers. 7 numbers. You got in without fussing? No way. I love how y'all talk to the
What is
calculator.
that, round?
Probably to the nearest, do it to the nearest hundred. So my standard deviation to the nearest hundred is gonna be 10.02.
Yep.
Feeling better?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the only things that you cannot do on your calculator is the mode.
Oh, yeah. Can't do that.
You can't do the range, which is high minus low. And you cannot do the mid-range, which is low plus high divided by 2. Those are the 3 things that your calculator will not give you. Everything else it'll do. It'll do the mean, it'll do the standard deviation, it'll do the median, it'll do the quartiles, it'll do everything else. Minimum, maximum, it just will not do the mode, the range, and the mid-range. Everything else it'll do. Now, let's talk for just a minute. We have 2 minutes left, so let's talk for just a minute about, you have 25 questions on this 11 and 13 test. 25. And if we look, here's what is in 11. Changing a fraction to a percent. So if I give you 4/5, to write it to a percentage, you would do 4/5. And then how would you change that to a percent? Woo-woo. So it'd be 80%. You with me? If I said change a fraction into a percent, you would change the fraction to a decimal, and then you would woo-woo, which would make it 80%. Write the decimal as a percent. So if I gave you, if I gave you 0.025 and said write that as a percent.
What'd you say?
I got up here, 0.025. I said write it as a percent, what would it be?
2.5.
2.5, because the percent sign's over here, so you woot that way. Is over of. 5% of 30 is what? Y'all with me? What is the new salary? Part over whole equals percent over 100. You find the the raise and you add it into the salary. Percent of increase and decrease, that's the subtract over 100. The subtract over original, percent over 100. We've got 2 simple interest rates, that's the I equal PRT. Month is over 12, day is over 360. This is simple you got 4 simple interest. You've got 2 compound interest. Find the total accumulated and the interest earned. The effective annual yield, that's the one where you subtract $1 and then woo-woo the answer. Found the amount that should be invested today. That's going to be the P equals compound. The A over the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Frequency distribution, give me the observations, the width, the midpoint, the modal. That was that very first problem in 13.1. Complete a frequency table, so if I give you data, you can finish it. If I give you data, draw a stem and leaf. We did that today. If I give you data, draw a histogram and a frequency polygon. I did that today. Use a frequency polygon to answer a question. I did that today. Circle graph, that's like the one I said 600 people answered questions about the accessories.
Yeah.
How many wanted a roof rack?
Right.
Determine the mean, median, mode, and mid-range. That's all in one question. Find the mode or modes. How many appeared the most? What is the lowest score you can get and still that's moving to Huzzy? Find the range and standard deviation. Find the range and standard deviation. That's the test, y'all. Okay? Take your time, do your best. You've got this. Test and homework are both due a week from Monday. You will not get reminders from me over the break. Remember, homework is open for the entire class. So you can go back. Did you come in after I said that? I reopened chapter 6, 7, 5, 6, 8, 9. All homework is open. So if you didn't finish any of the previous homework, it is all open so you can go back and bring it up. And I am out of the country next week. So I'm in Dominican Republic. So I will not have internet or anything, so I probably won't be returning much
And then you
school.
go,
8 and 9 open now?
8 and 9 are open. All homework for the entire semester is open.
it's already done for you.
Alright, if you have questions, stay, otherwise I am like 3 minutes over.
See, 'cause it's like, that's it, and that's,
Okay,
yeah.
but I'm not finished by 13, but I can do that.
That's fine.
And then.
And then, if I have to look on.
Hub is open next week, pay attention to